This podcast is supported in part by Carolina Forward, a nonpartisan policy organization that advocates for ideas, policies, and values to build a stronger North Carolina that works for all its people as a strong, diverse, multiracial democracy. For more on them, visit carolinaforward.org. Welcome to the second full episode of the Foxfire Dispatch. I'm Liz Purvis, and I'm a progressive community organizer in Granville County, North Carolina.
And I'm Gina Baxter. I am in local government in Western North Carolina, and we are here to create space for women in North Carolina politics, which has been a good old boys club for far too long.
We are so glad y'all are here with us, and we are going to jump right into the good stuff.
North Carolina politics and living in a purple state is so exhausting, but it is also deeply fascinating. So, over this past election cycle, I read a book called The Paradox of Tar Heel Politics. Have you read it?
No, I haven't, but I've seen it on the socials, and it seems like a really good one.
Is there hype around it? Am I
think-
not the only one who's reading it?
I mean, I think so.
Okay.
I think at least in our group chat, there's
Yes,
talk
for
about
sure. So I posted it on my stories, and like seven people were like, "Hey, I want to borrow that after you." And I was like, "Get your own copy." Absolutely not. And also, it's going to take me 2 years to read it. So you'll never get it. But I was surprised by how many people wanted to engage in North Carolina politics. And I was reading it like right before the election results came out. So, like the week leading up to the election and after, I was just reading it nonstop because I think in cases like what we saw in this past presidential election, where the top of the ticket goes one way and the bottom of the ticket goes another way, North Carolina has this history of being very purple. And the reason that it is so consistently fascinating to live in a state like that is because that is very unique to us. So that's part of what got me wanting to do a situation where we yap about politics. What about for you?
Oh, well, I think the anatomy of a purple state bit is super interesting. I think you're completely right that North Carolina is very unique in that as long as I've been thinking about North Carolina politics, I've heard we vote Democrat for the governor and we split Republican everywhere else. And over the years that I have been paying attention to it, I definitely wanted to get involved in talking about politics more because I feel like as I look at who all I listen to, real male dominated. Like, love them, smart, nice, cool guys talking about things in a cool and interesting way in a lot of places and on a lot of pods. But I do think the political talk space is really male dominated and that there is such room to grow for younger women and women in general in this space, or for us to at least be like, hey, we've been here, actually we've been doing a lot of the work from the organizing standpoint.
I was just gonna say,
particularly many of our lovely, like, retired and soon to be retired ladies, like, powering the canvassing across
absolutely.
this state. And I felt like the conversations that we can have could hopefully contribute to the blue wave we know we want to see in 2026.
Yeah, and I think women's role in organizing in general, like since the beginning of organizing in labor movements, in political movements, in equity based spaces, women have always been the people who have done the work on the ground that has gotten people engaged and involved. And then often men become the face of that movement. And North Carolina politics are no different. So I think that as we move toward a more equitable space, we can have a little more room in the dialogue for the work that women are doing. And there are so many, like thinking about who we want to interview for this podcast. Like, I feel like we're just constantly like, oh my God, and then this amazing woman, and like this local politics girly is doing amazing stuff in her community, and this girl who does mutual aid, and this person who speaks to people about ways that they can show up for their community, and whatever. Like, there's just an endless supply of women who are doing incredible work in the state. So I'm excited to get to showcase some of that.
Totally, totally. Well, probably a hard question, but if you could pick one dream guest right now, who would you say?
Okay, let me think. I mean, not to like, not to state the obvious and not to fangirl too hard. Guess who I'm gonna say?
My guess is ABC.
Well, yes. Is ABC Anderson Clayton?
Yeah.
Yes. Why is she B?
Oh, Breeze.
Breeze.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So cute. Never called her that before. Will be calling her that. Anderson. ABC now. Um, yeah, for sure. She's around all the time. She's super cool. Every time that she posts something in her stories, I'm like, my friend posted something. Like I've met her like 4 times, and I'm like, she knows me personally. I love her. We're besties. Like she just has that quality about her that brings people in.
I think her communications do have that like very relatable quality for everyone.
Let's back this segment up, ask it again, and say who Anderson is at the top. We did not yet.
Yeah, fuck.
Yeah.
Okay. I one thing that I want us to have for this podcast is like a sound that we add in when it's like, ooh, insider talk, like alert, and then we need to back up because I think we're going to our best efforts talk about this shit in a way everybody can understand, but sometimes we do forget how deep in it
Yeah.
we are.
Yeah.
Anderson Breeze Clayton, who is the state party chair for the North Carolina Democratic Party, the 27-year-old state party chair of the North Carolina Democratic Party, just to like shout out Gen Z and all the awesome work that they are doing.
Incredible work. And I feel like this is a generational thing that always happens, right? Like I'm 35. When I was in my mid 20s, it was like even further back when I was 18 and Obama won. That was the first election that I voted in. And my grandpa called me and he was like, your generation's going to save America. I've waited so long to get to see a black president. Like, we're finally moving the needle in a meaningful way. And your generation voting was a big part of that. And I hold that so close to me. And now that I'm almost 20 years past that, it's a little jarring to say out loud, but it is how time works. It feels very cyclical to me that we're still looking to the younger generation to fix the things that we can't fix as the generation of people who are kind of in the middle of the movement at this point. But yes, to bring it back to the point, Anderson, all day. Who's yours?
I mean, I feel like she is at the top of my list. I think, Allison Riggs, obviously like top of the list because
So cool.
holy shit, her and her team have worked so hard. Allison Riggs, who just got sat again for her first full term as a North Carolina Supreme Court justice, one of 2 women on that court, youngest woman on that court. And I think that she would be a great guest to talk as we have some time to process the decisions that have led to honoring her 734 vote win.
Yeah.
I think it would be. I am tentatively looking very forward to talking with her in the coming weeks and months.
You know who is like a dream guest who feels a little bit out of reach? Like I feel like we could get Anderson. I feel like we could get Justice Riggs. Do you know who I feel like is a trailblazing woman who like maybe is too, she like feels a little untouchable to me?
Who?
She's on the Council of State.
Oh, Elaine Marshall?
Yes.
Oh, I think
She's so cool.
She is. Is it cool if I tell you about? I was at a thing with her this past week. So I was at an event for one of the Young Democrats in North Carolina who is running to be a DNC rep at the coming YDA convention, the Young Democrats of America convention that'll happen in the summer. And so it was a fundraiser for him because he is crisscrossing the nation to talk to folks about electing him to become a DNC delegate. We're very excited for him. Dorian Palmer, he's one of the hardest workers in this state.
Yes.
For sure. And so Leader Reeves was there, Leader Batch was there, and Secretary Elaine Marshall was there, and they introduced him. And it was very sweet and very nice and very like really indicative of how beefed up the Young Democrats of North Carolina have like really been, I think, in the last couple of years. But Elaine Marshall was just great. I hadn't heard her give like any kind of introductory talk before, and she was telling us about her time in Young Democrats when she was the Young Democrats of America secretary, way, way, way before she was the Secretary of State.
Wow.
And how some dude They traveled via some dude's private plane to go and across the country and do the thing
What
Dorian is
dude?
doing.
And where is his plane? And
That
can he
was
use
not
it?
name dropped.
Okay.
But I said, Dorian, how are you traveling? And he
Yeah.
just looked at me and said, shut up.
Oh, sweet Dorian. Somebody who, talking about putting in the miles. Man, I never know where Dorian's going to be.
Anywhere, on
Anywhere.
any
He could
given
be
day.
anywhere.
He would be a great person to talk to too, especially about Dorian Palmer is, in addition to being a great young Democratic activist, he's the coalitions and community engagement director for the Democratic Party, which means that his job here in the state is to build coalitions with different community leaders, affiliated organizations like the different caucuses that we have across the state, and it's really all about like deepening ties, relational organizing in service of getting the things done that we hope to get done here in the state.
Yeah, and I think an important point there is that the work that Dorian does is open to anybody. Like, you don't have to have some like insider connection or be a certain level of involved with the party already. Like, that work, if you are interested in getting engaged or you're curious about what engagement looks like, or you're sitting at home thinking like, man, this shit is fucked up and I wish there was something I could do, something you can do is reach out to your local Young Dems, reach out to us, and we'll give you Dorian's cell phone number. He would love that. Like, it's just an open door all the time, and anybody who shows up for anything is so welcome, which is not something that I realized when I was younger and I was trying to find my footing within what I understood about politics, which was really this like national and federal system that I thought trickled down rather than working the other way and what we call building the bench, right? Which is starting folks out in a role that makes sense for them and giving them the tools to lead upward. And so I mentioned that because the folks listening to this, if you're looking for like new engagement, I think it's really important to shout out that not only is that door open, but people are begging you to walk through it. Like,
And I don't think we realize how actually relatively achievable the like gathering numbers we need to make this shit happen are. Like for most rural counties, 100 people who are willing to knock doors, make phone calls, show up to meetings, participate in food drives, etc., like together can transform a place where 60,000 people live.
yeah,
They absolutely can. You know how I know? Because we won our fucking General Assembly seats by 200 and odd votes.
right, right. Sherry Beasley sticker right here. She lost by what?
401.
401. That's the different. I mean, those numbers are, and Allison Riggs. I mean, we win and lose so many elections within a margin of 500 votes. And that is two people talking to everyone that they know. Like, that is such a small amount of engagement that,
That is make sure 3 friends vote that you just aren't sure if they know that early voting is easy or that they can do a mail-in ballot or like go on your lunch break and make a day of it on election day. Like,
yeah, or that you can vote a partial ticket. If you don't like what's going on nationally, which is a conversation that like we probably don't have time for, even if we had 400 recorded hours. But even if that doesn't sit right with you, find out who is in your neighborhood who's running for local office. Ask them to sit down with you. When I was running for city council, there was nothing that I loved more than somebody reaching out and saying like, hey, I got some stuff I got to talk to you about. I don't like what is happening. I don't like this part of your platform. I think what you said here is stupid. I was like, yes, talk to me about it, because that's what we're doing here. So that amount of engagement is just like so crucial, and everybody who has it and wants to give it to other people is so valid and so welcome. And if that's not the response you're getting, don't vote for that person, because we should all be able to have those hard conversations with each other, and that's the role of your local electeds. So like, put that on them and demand that they engage with you in a way that works for you.
totally, totally.
And that's my soapbox. That's my soapbox number 1. Somebody gave me a microphone. Uh-oh.
Do you have any interesting stories from your election time or your time canvassing and talking to voters over the course of last year?
So canvassing was a really fun time. Not every, do you like to canvass?
I like it in the sense that I know that it is the most effective thing to do, and that sometimes it can be energizing when you like have those positive conversations, or even like, girl, the fucking AP News came and canvassed with us in the spring of last year, and we got a woman on the doors who, and it was at the time when Biden was still running. It was in May, and she was like, is it still hit?" Like, genuinely didn't know that he was the one running. She knew Trump, but it's always very humbling to talk to somebody who
Hang on.
has, yeah,
She did not know who was running for president at the time in
correct,
May?
in
Okay.
May of
Okay.
2024. Yeah. And that was both surprising and humbling to me as someone who is like very plugged in and has been eyeing this race, so closely, to meet somebody, talk to somebody, and be like, we are really providing, like, from the top of the ticket to the bottom, information she did not have.
Yeah.
And that was like, so those kind of things I find exciting, and that makes me want to go to 20 more doors. And so that's enough to
Yes.
make it worth it. But no, I mean, as an introvert, as a person who does not historically like talking to strangers, I would say standing on people's front porches and doing two shaves and a haircut is like not my favorite thing, but it's effective, and
Yes.
that's what counts.
Yes. I agree, and I'm so grateful for the people who do it even though it's not their favorite thing to do, because that is really a sacrifice. I Now that you frame it like that, I was getting ready to be like, I love canvassing, but now that you frame it like that, I wonder if I just love the outcome of canvassing, because I do still get very I've canvassed, and when, just to be clear, we need the sound for when we get jargony, because just to be clear, when we talk about canvassing, we are talking about knocking on people's doors with some information about a candidate or a ballot and saying, "Hey, who do you think you might vote for? What issues are important to you? What questions do you have about this candidate? Do you know where you're going to vote?
Do you have a ride to vote?
Yes, can we help facilitate your access to your right to vote?" So I don't know that canvassing is the best one-to-one time every time for me, but I have had really cool outcomes of it. And one of my favorites was a lady who lives a handful of doors down from me. I know most of my neighbors, and this one woman who lives like kind of catty corner from me, I just had never crossed paths with. I've lived in the same house for 5 years. And so I went and knocked on her door and said, "Hey, I'm Gina Baxter. I'm running for city council. I would love to know what is important to you about what's going on in the city." And she stepped outside of her house and gave me all these ideas and said, "I'm pretty engaged in what's going on, and I've seen this and I like this, and I've seen this and I don't like this, and I wonder what you think about it all." And so we got to have this really like kind of rich conversation, which is way better. I prefer somebody telling me they don't like something than somebody not engaging, right? Like, we're not all going to agree, but I'd love to hear what you think. So we had this conversation. I felt like it went great. I didn't know all the answers to her questions, so got her some info and came back. After I got elected, my father-in-law was out in front of my house, came back to the backyard and was like, "Hey, Gina, there's somebody in your yard." And I was like, "Well, who is it?" And he said, "I don't know." So I went outside, and it was this woman who, my neighbor, who had canvassed. And she said, "Hey, I'm so sorry to show up on your porch." And I said, "We literally met because I showed up on your porch, so you're allowed to show up on mine." And she had questions about city cleanup post Hurricane Helene. There's been a lot of debris and a lot of talk about how we're going to pick up all of the construction debris and tree and leaf debris. And so she had some really good questions. And she said, "I lost your phone number. I didn't know how to get in touch with you. I was walking the dog. I just figured I'd stop by." And I was like, I cannot tell. Like, I had to try my best to act normal because I was so excited that she cared enough to come to my house and ask these questions. And I was like, this is exactly what I dreamt of when I ran for office, that people would be like, hey, that's Gina's house. She might know. Let's stop by and ask her stuff. And so I got to like we got to just hang out on my front porch and talk about what the city was going to do about picking up the trash by her house. But it was a cool outcome for me, and that is the whole point of local government to me. Like I want people to be accessible and for me to be accessible to them. And that's like my favorite example story of that happening.
I love that for you. It's so kind and so generous. And I just want to go on the record that while Gina is an elected official, I am a volunteer. I actually feel very differently. And it has recently come up in my life that perhaps one boundary that I am trying to propose to the world around me is that folks not actually show up at my door literally unannounced, because I find it very startling. And if it's during the workday, it also really fucks me up. So just let it be known we're coming from two different places on there. That I would love to come knock on your door. Please don't knock on my door unless you have my phone number and have already told me that you are coming.
I think this is an important point to really drive home though, because to me, the the onus of an elected official is that accessibility. That's not the onus of a volunteer. A volunteer has their own private universe that they are entitled to, and they are making choices for themselves based in the interests that they think are best, and they are sacrificing their time and energy for the greater good. I think the second, and I mean, quote me in 2 years if we're still doing this, but to me, I think that an elected official should hold themselves and should be prepared to hold themselves to a level of accessibility that is nearly transparent in what they're doing, because that is the gambit that they bid for,
When
right?
you say I am offering to become this because of the good I think I could do and the initiatives I think I could do, one of the things that you are also offering is I am a public facing person within my
Absolutely.
community, and I am available to you, the people who voted for me or who I asked to vote for me.
Absolutely. Which means if I'm at the bar having a drink and you have a question about your taxes, I better be fucking ready to answer it.
And I would say this holds true like for our lovely city commissioners and GA people. Like whenever we see each other, it doesn't matter whether it is at the brewery or like out in the middle of downtown. There's some kind of business
Yes.
we've got to cover with each other.
Yes, yes. And if you don't want to do that, I mean, I go to the next town over, which is Asheville. If I need to have like a night off, catch me in Asheville, where nobody cares about what Hendersonville's tax rate is. But if you're going to be in your community and that's the role that you've begged people to allow you to take, just show up for it.
No, I feel like that makes sense. I feel like it would do us good for more elected folks to um, feel like that. I do sense a real radical difference between that place that you are coming from and the a place of some comfort and privilege that I see in folks who have been elected and are in their 25th year, in
Sure.
their 32nd year of public service, which is also, I mean, in many ways good and important and useful. And thank you
Yes.
very much for this service. And also, sometimes I feel like, well, those folks who've been doing it for decades might be coming from it from a more like, here I am in my power and influence, and you come to me for that in the ways that I want to interact with you.
Yeah. And I may listen to this in 5 years and be like, what a fucking idiot. Who would say that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know how sustainable it is, but to me it feels there's probably a happy medium. I mean, I do tend to like launch into stuff pretty hard. But, you know, go out to your grocery store in a small town and see if you don't see someone you know. And
Story of my life.
right? Like we
Story.
live that way, so we might as well adjust to the one step difference of I'm going to be prepared when I have those engagements. Um, but I do understand, especially for I don't have kids, um, and I can see a real need for privacy and safety for people who do have families and who do have safety concerns, or maybe live in a different community where all your neighbors are not cool and nice people who just want to ask you about trash pickup. I feel very fortunate that my direct neighborhood is supportive and kind and that I know most of them. And I recognize that I'm fortunate to be able to experience that. Um, and no shade to anybody who's like, yeah, I'm elected, but my kids live here. Do not show up at my house.
Yeah.
Have whatever boundaries you need to have. Mine are loosey goosey,
But,
but
and I think that speaks to the intersectionality of our lives of like you said, my position is informed by my family structure and where I am in life, and probably this is your first time being elected,
yeah,
right? And so you're making the rhythm of what you are going to be as an elected official, like, still as you go along, it feels like.
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
There are also like just so many other things that matter, and it's really hard to connect all of them to politics, or to see the need that politics play in our daily lives. I think we start to see it all come to light over time. I know I certainly did, and it's the kind of slow activation at the end of my college years. But keeping up with it on top of everything else that's going on in our lives really can be a lot.
Yeah, yeah. How did you wind up knowing that like you cared enough about politics? Like, first of all, talk about how much of your time is taken up by being your county party chair, because like we've been in spaces together where you're like, hang on, I've got somebody calling me. It's very important that I take this call. Like you're kind of constantly on call too in that role.
I do feel in some ways really constantly on call. I will say that, like, probably once a quarter I try to take a weekend to decompress, because I have found, like, I had hoped at the end of 2024 that there would be an easing off the gas, because we gave so much then. So I would say, let's say somewhere between 20 and 30 hours a week, honestly. It's a
So
lot.
much. That's so much.
And yeah, there are a lot of people who, a stupid amount of people, I feel like, at this stage of my life, where it's like, I see this person calling, I know how busy they are, I need to talk to them right now because this is the time that they are giving me, and they would not be calling me unless they needed something, or were trying to give me something that will help my community.
Yeah, which is another, I think, another interesting way that intersectionality shows up, that you have the ability to say, from the framework that you work in, this person is calling me. I am going to interpret that as like kind of a gift. Like they're giving their time to me and I want to respect it. And we also need to get shit done. So sometimes we just gotta do it while it's happening, even if we were in the middle of four other things.
Yes, and we apologize, we ask for grace, and that is not to say that I never send people to voicemail. Like, sometimes it is not a good time, and you're on voicemail. And let me tell you, the more detailed message you give me, the faster I'm usually going to be able to call you back, because the faster I can assess the timing, the whether I can provide a solution immediately and give it to you in this next phone call. Like,
Yes.
oh man, is the call and the call me back or no voicemail at all up there on my pet peeves that I'm learning to deal with.
Agreed. I'll tell you what, if you call me and you don't leave me a voicemail, I'm gonna assume that you called me by accident.
I can't. There are too many boomers in my
That I
life.
can't.
They'd be very mad at me. They'd be so mad.
Oh, boomers.
We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for volunteering with me. Also, please leave me voicemails.
So this timeline has been unhinged and there's so much stuff happening all the time. What what keeps you sane? What do you do that keeps you grounded?
So this week, one of the things that's keeping me sane is getting off a screen and really using my hands for things like crafts. And I should have had it right here because it's actually in my bag. But I find those adult coloring books very meditative. It's just a very aesthetically pleasing coloring book from Johanna Basford. I think I'm saying that right.
I believe you.
She does this series of, it's like the Rooms of Wonder, World of Wonder, like World of Oceans. And then she has this smaller book that was called Small Victories, and it's just like it's little illustrations, or it's like a lot of miniature illustrations, so that you can really just like, I mean, let's be real. There was a time in my life where I could have spent like 2 hours going off the deep end of just like doing my own little thing, but now it's more like I have 10 minutes. I have 10 minutes to decompress.
Yeah.
How am I going to decompress? I can color this little mushroom.
Mm-hmm.
And they're really cute, and I post them on in my stories sometimes just as like a I have done this thing world, look at me having done this thing. And they're just, it's a fun and easy way to like decompress and listen to a podcast or listen to music or even sometimes watch TV, but mostly like not something else visual while I'm doing that, to just like focus
Yeah.
for a little while.
I would also like to draw attention to the number of screens around us right now. You have two laptops and a cell phone in front of you. I have my laptop and my phone. There are two cameras pointed at us. I think that might be all of it. But just like to put a really fine point on the need for screen relief, like it's constant, and right now it's also like compounded. So it's intensive.
It is so compounded at this moment. But you know, just doing those is like a nice is a nice little breakaway. I super recommend them. Um, what are you doing to stay sane this week?
I love that so much. I have a really hard time resetting inside because I my like attention wanders. So I love the concept of like meditative de-screen work. And what usually helps me, and lately has been helping me a lot, is getting outside, especially this time of year in the woods in Western North Carolina. We're right by Pisgah National Forest and DuPont State Park. And it's very easy for me to wake up at like 7 on a weekend and grab a dog and go to the woods. And I don't always have cell service out there, which is so dope. And then I come back and I'm like, I just took like a 5 hour vacation. Just splashed in the water, got my exercise in, my dog's tired. Like we've checked so many boxes. But it is like this really nice reset. And this time of year specifically is like rhododendron and azalea and Mount Laurel season. So everything's starting to bloom and it's just really nice and green. And it's usually rainy in the morning, which is so nice. And nobody wants to go out. So it's empty. It's incredible.
And in that rain, you might find like ghost pipes or fun little mushrooms.
Might find ghost pipes. Might find lady slippers. Might find cool little fungi. Might find foxfire.
Ding ding. Insert sparkly sounds here.
They said the thing.
I thought it would be cool to shout out Carolina Abortion Fund, which you're going to hear about from us a couple of times,
Yeah.
because we think they're awesome. They do really, really great work providing direct aid to people who need abortions and access to reproductive care. They're having their big Cowboy Cartier gala tonight. If you're in the Raleigh area, obviously people are going to hear this later, but it should be a really fun time. And I saw on one of their emails they got a match and they met their fundraising goal. So they had a $50,000 match that just doubled, and is going to provide one whole month of this year of access for folks.
Good. Oh, that's incredible. I'd love to hear that. Carolina Abortion Fund, all day, every day. If you can donate, if you need assistance, either side of that option, they're great. Y'all, that is the end of the first episode. So get in good trouble, help your neighbors, and remember that we are the ones that we've been waiting for, Liz.
And thank you so much for listening.
Bye.